it. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait. Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to High School to Higher Ed, a father-daughter perspective, a special Pulse Check mini-series brought to you by Enrollify. I'm Kevin Cavanaugh, an enrollment management professional for nearly 30 years.
And I'm Emma Cavanaugh, his daughter, a 10th grader in the middle of high school. This series is about seeing the college admissions process through a different perspective, mine. We'll explore how young people are perceiving college and the messages we're getting from counselors, family, and colleges themselves. By stepping into these early conversations, we hope to offer some real insights for enrollment managers and marketers. Things you can't find in the data, but in real, everyday moments. Let's dive into today's episode.
Emma, we're here at the start of season number 4. We've made it this far. How you feeling?
I'm excited.
How
are
is
you
sophomore? I'm feeling great. I love doing these with you. So how's sophomore year in high school treating you?
It's been fun. It's definitely been interesting.
How so?
It's been a bit of a struggle.
Taking tough courses.
Yeah, but
That's what you got to do, right?
might as well if I have to go to school anyways.
That sounds very, really go-getting. I appreciate it. So we're kicking off this newest season, and to kick it off, we did something really fun and took a break from my work and your schoolwork, right? Mm-hmm. And
We went to Boston.
we went to Boston. We took a road trip to one of the key cities that has lots of colleges, and we visited 6 of them over 3 days and took a lot of notes and lots of fun, saw some sights, but really we were focused on visiting 6 schools for the first time, right? These were your first official college visits.
These were the first ones ever.
Well, I shouldn't say, last season we talked about we did an open house. But,
yes, but
in
that's
terms
not
of
like a college visit. It's a little bit different.
Right. Okay. So first impressions, here you are going to a city that you'd only been to once before. There's a lot of colleges there. Big picture takeaway was the experience of visiting these schools about spot on what you thought? Was it worse, better, like what a really high level, not comparing any one school to another, but generally speaking, how did the trip meet your expectations or not?
I enjoyed seeing the schools in person because I feel like I've heard a lot about a lot of different schools, but it gave me a different perspective to see them actually, like the campuses and the people and the buildings. I think it was a lot different than just research online.
Right. You're seeing the real thing. No, these aren't emails, these aren't websites, these aren't videos, these aren't these glossy things that we're getting in the mail. It's actually living the life of college students and getting a chance to see where you might be spending 4 years. Hopefully just 4 years, and hopefully just one school if we do this right.
Hopefully just 4 years.
That's great. So for the sake of the audience, what we're trying to avoid doing here is we're not reviewing individual schools. I just want to remind everybody you will be applying to these schools, and therefore you don't want to blow them up too much, but in the spirit of providing good information to enrollment folks and admissions folks and marketing folks, we're going to give some feedback on a little bit of the pre-visit communication or the hospitality, the quality of the information sessions, the quality of the tours in sort of like a high level, that we're not going to try to embarrass any one school yet because you don't know what your list is going to be and you want them all to be happy with you and that not you being overly critical of them, right?
Oh, yeah. Everyone needs to be happy. Even if I didn't like them.
Right.
So.
Which when we get into it, there's certainly some schools that you're pretty comfortable with,
bashing.
casting aside. Right. So to break that down, we did 2 schools on Monday, 2 schools on Tuesday, and 2 schools on Wednesday. And we did 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. So we took a lot of notes because these things were a bit of a blur.
Going to so many in such a little amount of time was kind of crazy.
So let's talk about that. Was doing 6 schools in 3 days too much, or was that a good amount?
I don't think it was too much, but it definitely makes it harder to distinguish between the schools. And by the end of each day, especially on the last day, I was pretty tired and kind of done because it's very formulaic. So I was kind of ready to get in the car and go home by the end of the trip.
When you say formulaic, what do you mean?
Like we would wait and then we would go in to have a presentation and then we would go on a tour and then we would go find food, pretty much. Which, that was my favorite part. But
well, you would find food, then find the campus, then find the information session, and then go on the tour, and then find more food, right?
Obviously.
Bookend.
Food is the most important part, of course.
Right.
But it was just a lot of walking and stuff like that. So I think that's the max.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'll keep that in mind as we look at more schools. How much of the legwork did you do in terms of going online, booking these tours and information sessions, getting the confirmation emails? Tell me what your role there was.
Pretty much nothing. I did have a little bit of a say, and you gave me like a list of schools, and there was one day where there was a conflict between two schools, so I decided which one we wanted to actually visit. But other than that, it was all you.
Okay,
Thanks.
so note to my enrollment colleagues, at least in the N of one, Emma Kavanaugh, no legwork done on the actual visit stuff. So all those communications, all those emails, all those QR codes that I was sent, all the directions to the admissions office, all of the emails that we received in the lead up to it. Thank you. I think overall, very well done. The only thing that I thought was interesting that caught my eye was one school gave us a QR code and said, use this when you show up to campus, but there was no place to use it. They never asked for the QR code. So I had it ready to go, but nobody wanted anything to do with the QR code. And then another school, interestingly enough, said, click on the email and check in when you're within like a mile of the campus. And I didn't really understand the utility of that. Why wouldn't I just check in when I got there? So we didn't do that, but I don't know what the role of proximity check-in is all about. Okay, so let's talk about the welcome centers. So we went to 6 different schools, and they all had different, what I would call hospitalities.
We'll go chronological order.
All right, so Monday morning, what would you rate the hospitality when you got there, the welcome that you got, and the quality of the visit center itself? And tell me a little bit why you gave it, why you think that.
So Monday morning, there was a person to come and like check us in. We kind of just went up to them. We checked in, and then we were told to go into this, I guess, waiting room or visitation center, you could call it. It was, as I think you mentioned this earlier before we got on the podcast, but it was kind of stuffy, but I also felt like it represented the school.
Right.
So I kind of liked it because I thought, even though it's not maybe the best welcome center, I thought it represented the school.
I thought it was a little stale. I felt like I was walking into somebody's grandmother's living room, like a nice living room, but like it had that kind of vibe to it.
It wasn't modern or updated.
We were there early, so we were sitting there, and there was tons of materials on the coffee table and the end tables. Talk to me about how much you read through those and what really caught your eye.
I didn't read any of it. Not a single word.
And so for anybody that's listening, I wasn't going to tell her what to do. I just sat there and observed, and I saw her on her phone. I saw her looking around. But here I have spent an entire career working on like welcome center information, and it was like being at the zoo. I was just watching her, and there's all this great material, and she did not look at a single piece of collateral until 15 minutes into it. And I'm like, you're going to look at any of this stuff? And you're like, oh, and you do a little flip through, right?
I maybe skimmed a little bit. And then they were giving out pamphlets, and I realized that the pamphlets were the same as I was like, oh, we should get a pamphlet. And then I realized they were the same as the ones on the table.
Another thing I noted in that particular school, there was a beat up old bookshelf with faculty publications in it. And I've seen that before. I've had to do that at other admissions offices. Such a bad idea. It was like, it looked like, something out of like some children's library with stuff falling out of it and every faculty member stuff in there. Okay. So Monday afternoon, tell us quickly about what the welcome was like when you check in and they welcome, like the waiting area.
We sat on radiators, essentially, while we
Right.
waited. And they weren't very welcoming. They were kind of just, you can take a seat. That was it.
Yeah, right.
Seat
Okay.
on the radiator.
So Tuesday morning.
I really liked their welcome center. It had like kind of an overlook point. It was faced towards a highway, but the idea was there.
The highway was the first thing you see, but then beyond the
And
highway,
then there's
you
water
see
behind it. Yes.
it's called
There
the
was-
Charles River. You got to know that if you're looking at school. It's the Charles. Okay. Yep.
So that you could see that. And then I also liked inside, it was pretty big, pretty spacious.
I thought it was super well branded. Like all the chairs matched the school's colors, like nice contemporary, not like grandma's living room. Right.
And there were K-cups and all kind of like different, like you can make your own drink or something
Yep.
while you
Yep.
waited.
Right. Okay. And so I thought that was a really nicely done one.
Yeah.
Modern and well branded, thoughtful. It was like it wasn't as if they took a space and retrofitted it to be an admissions office welcome center. It was clear that it was built specifically for admissions guests,
Yeah.
which I thought was really nice. Okay. So Tuesday afternoon. Tell me about
afternoon.
that welcome and that space.
So this one it was pretty like a wide open space. There were lots of sofas. I also thought it was pretty well branded. And then there was a window, like a window wall. So you could look out and see the campus, which was kind of nice because you could see like the people walking around on the campus. And then what I really liked was while you were sitting and waiting there, student ambassadors, I guess, would come up and they would talk to you about like, what are your interests? Like, have you ever been to this college before? Like just kind of asking you, kind of getting to know you, answering some questions before you even got to the presentation, which I thought was really nice because no other school did that.
Yeah, that was the most impressive piece for me. They weren't all tour guides, but they were clearly well trained and well coached, and they were just pleasant kids, and they were just going up to everybody in the room and spending at least like a minute or two with them, sometimes longer, as you were killing time, as opposed to some of these other places where we were just sitting there talking to ourselves, right? So I thought that was a real touch of class there. So what about Wednesday morning school?
This is the one we just went right in.
Tell me about the space.
There wasn't really an admission center. We kind of just went straight into the auditorium area. The auditorium was okay. It wasn't particularly like, it didn't stand out.
Right.
And so it was just us in kind of an empty space.
Okay. All right. So then nothing to it, not even any real branding to it. I mean, I thought it was pretty nice.
There wasn't even anyone in like the room with us.
That's right. We just were ushered in there and we were the only ones there. And we'll get back to that in a minute. And then Wednesday afternoon, anything jump out at you with the hospitality and the space of that place?
It was kind of like a check-in. We just checked in to our time and then we were told to go into like a basement. And we just sat and waited for the presentation. But there was more people at this one.
Yeah. And they had at least things going on the projector screen, and they were very pleasant, but it was like checking into a boutique hotel. It was like a counter, you check in, you got like a name badge, and then you were ushered into the next space. Nothing wrong with it.
Bad.
I think it fit the vibe of the place, but nothing good, nothing bad, nothing that really jumped out one way or the other. Okay. So you want to talk about the presentations? You want to rip through the schools again on the quality of the presentation? So Monday morning, what jumped out at you about the information session that we've received?
I thought it was a little bland, and I thought they were kind of cagey around certain topics.
Like what?
I think it'll give away the school if I say.
I mean, I know what school you're talking about, but I don't know what specific thing you're talking about. So
I thought that they weren't super forthcoming when people were asking questions.
Okay. One thing that I did like about that, and I've seen this before, and I guess it's just really the quality or the comfort level of the public speaker, but the admissions person went around the room and asked everybody where they were from. That was really a bit of a nod to them wanting to show the kind of geographic diversity of the people that they attract to their campus, but it was also, it was a nice icebreaker. So when it came around to you, where did you tell people you were from?
Jersey.
Jersey. Yeah. Not New Jersey. My daughter tells a room full of people, I'm from Jersey. Monday afternoon, quality of the presentation. This was the school that we sat on the radiator before we were ushered in.
Pretty bad. I thought that it was kind of bland, and some of the things that they were highlighting were strange. Like some of the student traditions that they were putting up on the screen were pretty strange. Like it wouldn't be something that would really attract me to the school.
Right. But you could see how it could attract some people, right?
It could attract someone, but not me.
Yeah, I thought what I had an issue with is that the presenter didn't make any eye contact with anybody in the audience. They were either looking down or looking at like the ceiling in the back of the room. I was kind of surprised at the lack of panache, especially given the brand of the school. What about Tuesday morning? What'd you think of that presentation?
So that one, I didn't love the student speaker, but they did give a lot of good information because it was a student speaker and someone that works in admissions. And I thought that they gave good information, and they gave information that some schools didn't really talk about, which had to do with like courses and course selection, which is important for high schoolers that are thinking about applying. Because I think if you want to get into a school, you should probably know what courses you're expected to take or like you should take. And so they were actually giving that information, which I think a lot of schools were kind of avoiding the topic of like acceptance because they just wanted you to like the school.
What's interesting with that is that that works out fine for you as a first semester sophomore, so you have time. But can you imagine if you were a junior in high school and they're talking about course selection and you're like, I can't, I've done 3 years now. I can't, you only have the senior year left. So then tell me about Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon, it was a panel of students and then someone that worked in the admissions office. I really liked that because it was a diverse group of students and they were kind of talking about different aspects of going to this university, which I thought was interesting. And they were all from kind of different majors, which was helpful because I think that's important because there's so many different majors that people could choose. And I like to hear from the students because the admissions officer kind of asked the questions but didn't really participate in the conversation too much.
They gave the initial welcome, the X's and O's of how to exit the room and get on your tour, and then they facilitated the conversation. But they're like a talk show host, the admissions person. They just encouraged the people in the audience to ask the questions to the students, which I thought they did it in a polite way, but they really wanted you to get the most out of the students. And what I also thought is that they had first-year students as well as seniors.
Yeah.
So you got a real mix of the experiences that they're having across the 4 years of college, which I thought was a nice touch. Wednesday morning.
Not great.
Okay.
We were one of the only families there, and then I think 2 other families ended up coming, and they all walked in with their like drinks, and it was very casual. They weren't very professional. They didn't go through the presentation because there were so few people. They did ask all of the students a little bit about themselves and what they were interested in, but we didn't get the full experience. And if we're going to the visit, I think that they should be giving the full experience no matter how many people show up because we traveled to see the school.
100%. I was so agitated as an admissions person and as a dad. Like, this was a school that you had expressed a lot of interest in before the trip, and to have like admission staff, this was early in the morning, kind of stroll in, and they had their, one had their iced coffee Dunkin' Donuts with the straw sticking out, and like you can hear the ice cubes going, and basically saying, and this wasn't an entry-level person either. This was like a senior associate director, if I recall correctly, and saying, it's such a small group. We're not going to do the whole formal thing. We'll just flip through and skip some slides and stuff. Like, whoa. Like, you got to treat each family, whether it's one family or a room full of 100 families, you got to treat your guests a certain way. So I was really taken aback by that one. And then Wednesday afternoon, anything jump out at you on that one?
It was pretty standard, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just didn't stand out to me.
What did you enjoy more, the information sessions or the tours of campus?
That's a hard question. Because I feel like it really depends on who you get as your tour guide and who you get during the information session.
Okay.
Because
All right.
I think it's really cool to see the campuses, but if you're just being blasted with information and your back is starting to hurt because you're walking and all that kind of stuff, then it's not as enjoyable. But if it's like you're moving a lot, you're getting to see all the different parts of the campus, you're getting good information but not getting overloaded with it, then I'd probably say the campus tours. But if there's too much information in the campus tours, I would probably say the information sessions.
Okay. All right. So what I was going to say is like, and here comes your favorite part, the tours, but you just debunked that. So I'm glad I asked you. So it's kind of 50-50.
I didn't fully debunk it.
Right. Okay. So let's start again. Monday morning tour. What was your experience? So this was the sort of dated admissions office or welcome center, as far as I'm concerned. You're sort of like so on the quality of the information session, nice but not not great. But so now tell me about the tour. Did they bring it home on the tour?
I think the tour was okay. I think the tour guides could have been dressed more professionally. They were kind of just in their workout clothes, which I guess is like more authentic because that's what college life is really like. But when you're touring around a group of students, I feel like they could have been more well presented.
Yep.
I think they gave good information. It was kind of hard to hear them because the lawnmowers were going. I think they could have been a little bit more friendly. They weren't super approachable. Like if you had questions in between, I still went up to them and asked them questions, but I just didn't think they were the most approachable people.
Right.
Which I understand it was a Monday morning, but...
Well, I wanted to get to that. So we got there early. We're walking around the campus, and everybody's coming and going. It's about 8 o'clock, maybe 8:15. And Emma says to me, "Dad, I don't know if I like it here. None of these people seem happy." And I turned to her and I said, "Emma, it's 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. Nobody's happy anywhere. You can't judge a school completely by it." But I thought it was really fascinating that something as simple as that, early morning tours, early morning information sessions, you're walking around, everybody's just about their day, but you're picking up vibes because that's your one and only time. You're going to make a decision about a 4-year experience of going to college based off of maybe the 1 or 2 hours you might be there for a tour and information session, and then maybe another hour or 2 or 3 if you came back for accepted students day. So the limited amount of time that you're on a campus has a huge impact on your attitude on the school. So anyway, so I did try to save the school a little bit because it's a nice school that you can't judge everybody by 8 o'clock in the morning on a
Which I do understand, but...
Right. You didn't at the time.
I was kind of expecting like everyone's happy and cheery because they're at a great school and they're really happy. But I don't know.
Yeah. Bubble gum and sprinkles everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so Monday afternoon, tell me about that
Terrible.
tour.
It
Okay.
was
Why?
not good. So our tour guide literally
Nice.
said
Very,
to us,
very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice young lady.
said to us, "I don't like public speaking, so please bear with me," which, great, she's getting out of her comfort zone, but I don't think that a college tour visit where you're trying to convince people to come to your school is the best time to be experimenting with your public speaking skills. She was standing in wood chips, and we were all standing around this little area with wood chips in it for probably about 20 minutes talking about the most random things and all of the courses that you have to take and that are required to take. And then she was talking about a class that she failed, and it was just not great. And then
it was clearly not a script. I think she was told to stand there at that point in the tour and go through a few things, like a few topics, but she went on and on and on and was going off on tangents. And by the way, it's called mulch. That's what wood chips are called.
It was wood chips.
It was wood chips?
It was wood chips. It was not mulch.
Okay, I take it back. Mm-hmm. Basically, when we're standing there, it's the equivalent of being in like a loading dock area. It was like a horseshoed by 3 buildings. They all looked pretty utilitarian, like Eastern European vibe. from the 1980s, and like the blinds were all crooked on some of the windows. I was like, where the hell am I? And she's pointing as if I know what's on the other side of any of these buildings. Like, oh yeah, that's over there, and all the good stuff is over on the other side of that building. And I guess you have to like use your imagination a little bit on what's on the other side.
There were two main locations where we stood for about 20 minutes on this tour.
Yeah, yeah.
And then she turns and she looks at this building. That's the most rundown building I think I've ever seen. And she goes, and this is our main building. And I was like, yeah. Great.
Right. Great reputation, but not the greatest facilities, right?
Not the greatest facilities. And that wouldn't be the building if I thought of this school that I would think of as the main building. And so they should have just gone with that. It's not their main building. That's just...
Right.
Just left it at that.
A little showmanship. Meanwhile, this school will get all of its applications and all of its freshman class. They have no issue with yield, but they don't have to try as hard on the admission side because they're a highly selective school. So,
so as soon as we got a little place to stop, we left.
Right. So we found an area where we were allowed to walk around a little bit and stretch our legs. It was like the halftime show of the tour.
And that we were an hour into.
Yeah, and you and I were like, okay, we're out. You clearly they had lost you by then because they had you sit on a radiator when you checked in. They didn't exactly have the greatest information session, and then the tour guide, very sweet young lady, but not terribly well trained and not polished, and that kind of rubbed you the wrong way. So Tuesday morning, do you remember?
Yes, I remember. So this school, I think it's more urban. It's more like within the city. So the tour guide was very well trained and very impressive. He could walk backwards on the city streets and not bump into anything, which is very impressive. I don't think I could do that. He had a whole like microphone set on so everyone could hear him. It didn't work the best, but I thought the thought was there. Mm-hmm. I think it could have been a little more authentic. I thought it was a little bit scripted. And then he kept talking about his friends. He had lots of friends.
Yeah. He first semester freshman, and I don't know if he was just coached to do this, but in that building, I have a friend who lives in that building, and then we go down to like another building, and I have a friend that's working on a dune buggy in that building, and then somebody asked a question on the tour about study abroad. Oh yeah, I have a friend in Spain. Like everybody, he had a story about a friend and everything. It was really this guy's he knows everybody on this campus.
He knows everyone.
But yes, he was. This goes back to the school that had a really nice welcome center, well branded, and clearly they've spent a lot of time thinking about the guest experience because the check-in was great, the welcome center was great, the presentation I thought was good. It wasn't great, but you thought it was like so. But the tour was very well trained. Wasn't the greatest sort of tour route or whatever, but I thought he did a really, really nice job.
We went through like a wind tunnel at one point.
So the tour on Tuesday afternoon.
I really liked this one. I liked the tour guide. I thought she gave a good amount of information. She was pretty professional. She gave some of her personal experience and then some of the information that she was probably told to give. I thought it was pretty good. What
I picked up on that was trained, but not like super scripted to the point of being inauthentic. I think they're told what route to go and some talking points on each building, but then everything else becomes authentic. Some of the others weren't as authentic. Just super down to earth. Wasn't like unnecessarily walking backwards. And the one thing I appreciated with her, she was asked a few questions that she didn't have the answer to. But she said, when we get back to the admissions office, let's go inside and I'll introduce you to somebody that will answer those questions. And no other tour guide did that. They said either they made it up or they just said, I don't know. And then that was the end of it. But the Tuesday afternoon tour guide was well trained enough or just had good sense. Like, I don't have the answer. I'm not going to make it up, but I'm going to make sure that you have the answer before you leave, which I thought was great. Anything else on Tuesday afternoon?
How was it?
Wednesday morning.
This one was pretty not memorable. I had to really jog my memory a little bit. I think the tour guide was a little bit awkward, but I didn't think it really impacted the tour too much. But that was pretty much all I thought.
Okay. And then how was and I would agree. Like, I didn't even remember the tour guide was when we were like, she disappeared in my brain. I remembered 5 out of the 6 tour guides, and you had to remind me. And even still with that's a little foggy. So tell me about the tour on Wednesday afternoon.
We actually didn't go on the Wednesday afternoon tour.
Why?
Why? You sound so sad. I just learned more about the school through the information session, and I just decided that this wasn't a school for me. It wasn't what I was looking for, and at this point, it was the last tour of our visit, and we were leaving right after, and I didn't see a point in staying because it's just not the kind of school that I was looking for. It didn't have the vibe that I wanted. It didn't have exactly the major or the opportunities that I was looking for. So
Right. And I encourage you to look at it because I thought that there were some really unique programs that would be right up your alley, but not forcing it. And halfway through, we were just, okay, let's get out of here. All good. Yeah. So as we wrap up the episode, there are some winners, some losers on each element of the welcome center, the information session, and the tour. But now, coming full circle, did these visits help you think differently about the schools, the college experience? Like, how did you have your schools ranked if the best as you can remember before we went on the trip? And did your ranking change because of the experiences you had, either good or bad?
Definitely. I wasn't really sure what to expect on the tours because the Boston schools that we visited, none of them were like the school that I wanted to go to, or they weren't high up on my radar. Obviously, some of them I was thinking about and knew about, but they weren't the one like I have to go there. But after seeing them, actually one of them is one of my top schools right now after seeing it, and then I did more research after. So that was a successful visit. And I also saw what I was definitely not looking for, and it confirmed that I wouldn't want to apply to 2 schools. And then some of the other schools, I got a good vibe for them. It didn't cross them off my list or make them automatically on my list, but I got more information about the schools that I probably hadn't done much research on.
Mm-hmm. Well, interesting, like a couple of weeks have passed, but I think you're even toning it down a little bit more. I recall on the trip up to Boston, one of the schools was maybe 3rd on your list out of all of the schools, as we talked about it a bit. And you had other schools in other places in the country that you had on your mind too. And some of them were pretty high. Like one of them was your number 1 school, but one of the schools you saw in Boston knocked off your number 1 and became your number 1. Now, I don't know if it's still there, and these things are going to change, but you were so impressed that you wanted a sweatshirt from that school.
We had to get a sweatshirt.
Yeah, like that was, no, and you didn't get any swag from any other school, right?
No. I would have, because I just like college gear, but you kind of shut it down. But then you saw my reaction to that one school, and you allowed me to get that one sweatshirt.
I did. It's like, it's what you want as a parent, to see a kid kind of light up.
Before we even got on to the actual information session and the visit, I could just tell it was a school that I liked. Between the campus and the people that I was seeing, it just seemed like a school that was maybe for me. I especially liked the people that I saw in terms of like, we were in, I think it was a passing period, kind of
Yep.
equivalent to high school. And I like to see people out and about and interacting with each other. I enjoyed that part of it because it's nice to be able to see people actually interacting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, as a parent, I want to see a light bulb go off and a light go off when you see a place that's for you. And I definitely saw that with, one of those schools there. So it made me really happy. And I do think it's now made you think differently about some schools that you weren't thinking about before because of the experiences that you had. So it was great. It was a great trip. I loved it. Next time we got to bring Mom, but Mom didn't have off that week. So we went solo, or the 2 of us, the duo.
Solo together.
Yeah, solo together. That's right. So we have a bunch of episodes coming up over the next few weeks, right?
Yes.
Pretty excited to go through them all. And do you have any sneak peeks or previews, or you just want to wait?
Should we? Or should we keep it a secret?
Let's keep it a secret. We'll talk about it.
I guess you'll have to tune in.
Yep, tune in next time. Another episode would be dropping soon, but I think it's time for us to make like a tree and get out of here.
Let's make like a tree and leave, you idiot.
All right. Love you, kiddo.
Bye. Love you.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.